Afternoon, everybody. Just a few things, and then I'll go ahead and take your questions. So today, Secretary Austin participated in the U.S. Africa Leaders Summit, along with Secretary of State Antony Blinken and other U.S. government leaders. The summit, which runs December 13 through 15 here in Washington, D.C., brings together U.S. and African senior leaders and provides an opportunity to convene African governments, civil society, diaspora communities from across the United States, and the private sector in pursuit of a shared vision for the future of U.S.-Africa relations. On the margins of the summit, Secretary Austin also participated in a multilateral meeting with the presidents of Somalia, Djibouti, and Niger, as well as a bilateral meeting with the president of Angola to discuss security development, cooperation, and deepening our U.S.-Angola partnerships. In addition, Secretary Austin also co-chaired the Peace, Security, and Governance Forum today with Secretary of State Blinken and Administrator of the United States Agency for International Development, Samantha Power. Security-related challenges in Africa are often multifaceted and rooted in weak governance. Solutions require cross-government and interministerial collaboration and community engagement and integration. Secretary Austin, along with Secretary Blinken and Administrator Power, appreciated the opportunity to discuss these critical issues with and learn from leaders from across the African continent. Collaboration with African nations, institutions, and peoples is essential to the U.S. approach to working with partners to promote stability in Africa. Separately, Secretary Austin will host Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi at the Pentagon tomorrow to discuss regional security cooperation, and a readout of that engagement will be forthcoming. And finally, the Department would like to wish our National Guard a happy 386th birthday. On this date, in 1636, the first militia regiments in North America were organized in Massachusetts to better defend the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Today, our incredible National Guard service members serve in 50 states, 3 territories, and the District of Columbia, conducting a full range of operations at home and abroad in defense of our nation, truly living up to their motto, always ready, always there. And with that, I will take your questions. We'll start with AP Tara.
Hi, Pat. Several U.S. officials have confirmed that the U.S. intends to send Patriot missile defense systems to Ukraine. Can you confirm this? And as part of this, would there be U.S. troops providing training in Germany or in other nearby locations?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Tara. So I don't have anything to announce today. As we've discussed before, we do maintain a robust dialogue with our Ukrainian partners, with our allies, and our international partners on Ukraine's security assistance needs, to include battlefield capabilities that they may need, as well as air defense. And so, in light of Russia's cruel and continued heavy bombardment of innocent civilians and civilian infrastructure in Ukraine, we'll continue to have those discussions and look at capabilities that they'll need to defend their territory. But again, I don't have anything to announce today.
But are Patriots one of the systems that are in the realm of possibility because of the intensified attacks by Russia?
So as always, we will look at a full spectrum of security assistance and defensive capabilities that are available within our common inventories when we consider Ukraine's needs. And so when and if we have something to announce, we'll certainly do that. Let me go ahead and go to Jennifer.
Pat, I'm trying to understand what the issue with the Patriots has been up until now, because it's not new that Russia has been striking civilian targets, and they've wanted air defense. We're now into the 10th, 11th month. Is the issue that you need to alter the Patriots? Are you concerned about technology falling into the wrong hands? What is the issue with the Patriots?
Again, I don't have anything to announce today, Jennifer, in regards to any new air defense capabilities that we may or may not be providing to Ukraine.
But when you send Patriots to other countries, do you alter them? Are they changed technologically so that, is it a different version than what the U.S. has or sends to NATO?
So broadly speaking, in any of our defense relationships and security cooperation relationships with other countries, there's a variety of factors that go into consideration, as you know, through the foreign military sales process that goes through the State Department. As a matter of operation security, we don't discuss the specifics when it comes to the schematics or the capabilities of those particular systems. And so, like any other system, there's a variety of considerations.
And can you confirm that the U.S. plans to send troops to Ukraine to track the weapons that have already been sent? There was a report yesterday.
So I did see the article that you're referring to. As you know, back in May, when conditions permitted, we reopened the Office of Defense Cooperation and the Office of the Defense Attaché at the Embassy. As we've mentioned before, that team there, the Defense Attaché Office, maintains a small team that do conduct inspections in terms of capabilities that we are providing to Ukraine. In terms of the numbers associated with that mission, again, we're talking small numbers. We don't discuss specifics for operations security reasons and force protection reasons. Let me go ahead and go to Janie, and then I'll come back to Orrin.
Thank you very much. On the missile defense systems, South Korea has been stated that it has no intention to participate in the U.S. missile defense systems. What is the U.S. position on this? Do you think that the ROK military's independent missile defense system can sufficiently defend against North Korean missiles?
Yeah, thanks, Janie. So I don't have any comment to provide on any policy statements or operational statements that the Republic of Korea may have made. As you know, we have a very deep security cooperation relationship with the Republic of Korea as allies in the Indo-Pacific region, and our focus continues to remain on working closely with them to ensure the defense of the Republic of Korea and the broader Indo-Pacific region.
Yeah, do you think that the reason South Korea is not participating in the U.S. MD system is because of Chinese pressure?
Yeah, again, I don't have anything on that, nor would I want to speculate on why South Korea may be doing what it's doing. I'd refer you to them, but let me go ahead and go to Orrin here.
Can you update us on the status of training at Grafenwehr and the training under SAG-U? Does that remain training on individual systems, or has that expanded beyond individual systems to wider or larger training in any way?
Yeah, so no new updates to provide on the training front. Again, we have been training Ukrainians for a while now on the systems that we provide to them. And so we're constantly looking at ways that we can support Ukraine, and in this case, training is one of them. Thank you. Sir.
Yeah, could I ask you on Turkey and Syria and Iraq, what's the Pentagon's assessment of, are U.S. troops still at risk due to Turkish military activity, be it in Syria or Iraq? And secondly, has DoD been able to convince Turkey to hold off on the land offensive? Do you believe that, if you have, is it temporary or permanent?
So I don't want to speak for Turkey. Certainly, I'd refer you to them for their views on that particular matter. From a U.S. standpoint, I can tell you that the partnered operations with Syrian Democratic Forces have resumed. They resumed in full on December 9th. Again, our focus is on working with those local partners to prevent the reconstitution of ISIS, and just leave it at that.
About, I guess it was 2 weeks ago when DoD publicly stated that U.S. troops were at risk due to certain military activities, obviously Turkish airstrikes being one of them. Have U.S. troops been put at risk after or since then?
Not to my knowledge, and again, this is exactly why we need to continue to keep that region stable and to be able to continue to work with our local partners in the region to prevent, again, the rise of ISIS. But Turkey remains a very close NATO ally. We'll continue to consult and work closely with Turkey, and nothing to add beyond that at this point. Let me go ahead and go to the phones here. Jeff Schogel, Task and Purpose.
Thank you. Does DoD have any update on the Army's investigation into bizarre pictures that were posted on social media?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. I do not. I would refer you back to the Army for any information on that and the status of their investigation. Let me go to Joe Gould, Defense News.
Hi, Pat. Thanks for taking my question. Another question on oversight of arms deliveries to Ukraine. I want to say back in November, you had said to date there had been no illicit diversions, and I just want to see if we could get you on the record. Is that still the case? Have there been no diversions of of U.S. arms to Ukraine?
That's correct, Joe. At this point, we have no information that would, no credible information that would indicate that there's been any diversion of Ukrainian assistance into illicit means. Again, and I think the results on the battlefield in this case speak for themselves. We continue to see the Ukrainians take the capabilities that they're being provided by the United States and the international community and using it to great effect to defend their nation and regain sovereign territory. Okay. Let me go ahead and go to Rio from Nikkei, then I'll come back in the room.
Hi, thank you very much for taking my question. The Chinese and the Indian military forces crashed on their disputed border this week for the first time in nearly 2 years. How much is the Pentagon concerned that this crash could lead to a bigger military confrontation? Is the Pentagon willing to provide more military support to India to help them handle China's military threats at their border? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Rio. So I can tell you that DoD continues to closely watch developments along the line of actual control at the India-China border. We have seen the PRC continue to amass forces and build military infrastructure along the so-called LAC, but I would defer you to India in terms of their views. It does reflect, though, and it's important to point out, the growing trend by the PRC to assert itself and to be provocative in areas directed towards U.S. allies and our partners in the Indo-Pacific. And we will continue to remain steadfast in our commitment to ensuring the security of our partners. And we fully support India's ongoing efforts to de-escalate this situation. Let me come back to the room. Idris.
Just a clarification on the partner patrols with the SDF. Are they restarting at the same pace as when you left off, and are they restarting because there's been a pause in airstrikes? And then I have a separate question.
Sure. So I'd refer you to CENTCOM to get more specifics, but my understanding is yes, they've fully resumed the pace of patrols prior to the previous suspension of those.
Now, a separate note, there was a Reuters story yesterday about the Nigerian eyewitness accounts of the Nigerian military killing civilians, including children. Do you have a comment? And B, are you reviewing any of the military assistance given to Nigeria?
So again, the reports are very concerning. We support State Department's efforts on this. You know what they've said publicly, and would call again on an investigation to take place by the Nigerian government. But beyond that, I'd refer you to State Department. Thank you. Travis.
Thanks, Pat. Do you have any update or additional information on the increased U.S. rotations to Australia, particularly numbers, units, when you expect those new rotations to begin? And additionally, is that expected just to be in Darwin, or is that there going to be new facilities in Australia for those rotations?
Yeah, thanks, Travis. So as you know, as part of the Osmond discussions, this was an area that Secretary Austin highlighted was part of the discussion, and that was to look at increasing the number of rotational deployments. What I would tell you is, in terms of next steps, our staffs will work together to identify the specifics of those, but they will entail air, land, and sea opportunities. And so as more details become available, we'll be sure to provide those.
Is there any kind of timeline on when you think more details might be released? Is it something near term, or is it going to be a few months out? Any sense of that?
I can tell you that there's a lot of interest in moving this forward, but I don't want to put a timeline on it right now. Thank you. Qasim.
General, a follow-up on the patrols. Can you tell us if it is those patrols are now closer to the Turkish border, or are they further down in the south? And then I have another separate question.
Again, I'd refer you to CENTCOM for more specifics, but my understanding is, again, they are resuming the patrols that they conducted previously in the, again, without getting into specifics into the specific areas, but in the operations areas that they previously had been conducting operations in.
Also, last week we heard we heard from you, from State Department, that you are not encouraging, you are not enabling Ukrainian forces to strike the Russian posts in Russian territory. But we also saw some stories saying that now after the Russians striking more and more inside Ukraine and targeting infrastructure, the Pentagon is okay with Ukrainian to strike inside the Russian territories, I mean official Russian state territories. Could you confirm, or has there been any change in the Defense Department's position?
Yeah, thanks, Qasim. So look, our focus is on enabling Ukraine to defend their territory. They were invaded by Russia almost a year ago. We've seen some significant progress by them on the front lines to take territory back, and that remains our focus. As I think you've heard others say, there's no interest in escalation of this conflict. We remain solely focused on helping Ukraine defend its country and take back its sovereign territory. Thank you. Tom.
Thanks, General. Stepping away from any specific system, like the Patriots, but a system that involves usually a lot of training for U.S. personnel, what part or parts of the Pentagon say, okay, how do we make this training abbreviated so we can get the Ukrainians to use it quicker? Am I making myself?
Yeah,
okay.
I think you're asking me to speculate.
No, I'm not. I'm asking, is there a specific group of folks here at the Pentagon who said, we have to come up with ways to make training easier?
So broadly speaking, let's use HIMARS, for example, or NASAMS, right? So any of those systems, as part of the process, is going to entail taking a look at what it would require to train the Ukrainians, what it would require for them to sustain it, and then operate it, right? And so that's going to be built into any plan to provide equipment to the Ukrainians. And so in the case of HIMARS, providing them with, working with, in this case, the Army, the U.S. Army, to look at what the training program would look like and how we could facilitate that in the most effective, efficient way possible.
So, to be sure I'm understanding you correctly, so in the case of like the HIMARS, like you said, the Army, those folks would be, okay, how can we look at the way to do the training best suited for the Ukrainians to get it there quickly?
Correct.
Quicker. Okay, thank
Correct. All right, no problem. Let me go to the phones here and I'll come right, yeah.
Just, can you give us an idea about the scope of the training, General? I mean, how many Ukrainians are being trained in Germany or elsewhere right now? And how many U.S. soldiers or service members are involved in training the Ukrainians?
Jim, we can get those numbers for you. I don't have them right here in front of me. But U.S. European Command does have a number that they've provided in terms of by system, that we can get that to you. Okay. Let me go to the phone here. Will Dunlop, AFP.
Hi, thank you. So without getting into specific systems, the U.S. and other countries have been working to bolster Ukraine's air defenses for a couple months now. Where does that process stand, and how close is Ukraine to having the required air defenses in place? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Will. So, from a U.S. standpoint, we've been providing Ukraine with air defense systems for a while now. Again, I mentioned the NASAMS. We've provided Stingers. We've provided counter-UAS capabilities. And it's not just the U.S. As you know, our allies and international partners have been doing the same. And so we continue to consult and advise our Ukrainian partners on how best to integrate their air defense systems. In the meantime, again, as I mentioned earlier, we recognize that with the air threat that Russia poses to Ukraine, that air defense continues to be a priority topic of discussion when it comes to security assistance. And so we'll continue to look at ways that we can best support Ukraine to protect their population and to protect their broader infrastructure to be able to survive these attacks. I will also say that we continue to see Ukraine employ to great effect the capabilities that they have. And without going into specific numbers, can say that they have been able to successfully intercept, in many cases destroy, Russian missile and drone strikes. But all that said, we've all seen the images on television and social media of those missiles and drones that did get through, and so we know that more continues to need to be done. Thank you. All right, let me go to Heather, USNI.
Great. Going back to the vaccines that we were discussing last week, COVID-19, now that the House has passed the NDAA, and it looks likely that the Senate will too, has there been any preparation for what will happen once a vaccine mandate is no longer allowed to be in effect?
Yeah, thanks, Heather. So as mentioned, again, we're not going to comment on potential or pending legislation. You've heard us be very clear that the Secretary still supports maintaining the mandate. And we'll just leave it at that. Thank you. All right, let me go back to the room. Ma'am.
Thank you so much, General Ryder. A question on oversight. A GAO report came out this week that said quite a bit of further actions are needed to implement predictive maintenance to sustain weapon systems. This comes nearly 2 decades after DoD first mentioned predictive maintenance as a priority. And the report itself calls for more sustained focus from leadership. And so I was wondering, is that a concern that has reached you and OSD? And where does predictive maintenance stand as a technological priority in your view for the military coming in the next year?
Yeah, thanks very much for the question. I've not seen the report, but we can certainly take that question and come back to you. Thank you. Let me go to Courtney.
Did the U.S. military have any role in the detention or moving the Lockerbie suspect?
Yeah, thanks, Courtney. I appreciate it. So as it relates to the Lockerbie suspect, I'd refer you to the Department of Justice. I just don't have anything to provide from here on that.
But I'm asking specifically about a U.S. military role. Now that he's here, I don't know if there would be any operational security. So I mean, was he moved on a U.S. military plane? Was there any role in it?
Again, I'm not going to have any information to provide from here. So I'd refer you to DOJ, since it was their operation to bring him back, and really they're the ones to talk to the various aspects of how they did that, and yeah, just leave it at that. Thank you. Tony.
Can I go back to Patriots one more time? Maybe this is a suicide mission, but are Patriots to Ukraine under active consideration by the administration? I think a senior defense official said this a few weeks ago, but just bound that, is it under active consideration? You just can't talk about the status of the review.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. So again, don't have anything to announce. As a matter of policy, we're not going to preview or discuss potential or speculate on any security assistance prior to any type of announcement. So or discuss whether or not it may or may not be under consideration. We continuously look at a wide range of capabilities, and when and if we have something to announce, we'll be sure to do that.
Now, I need to ask you an NDAA question, and not a dollar question, but buried in there is a section that criticizes the Pentagon's ubiquitous, sustained, and overwhelming use of the Controlled Unclassified Information label. It talks about the uneven application of CUI, and they're concerned about the extent and efficacy of training, oversight, and guidance provided to DoD officials who put the stamp on everything but coffee cups. You've been here a long time. Is that label being overused, and do the Senate and House legislators have a point? It's time to review and issue some guidance on when to use this label.
Yeah, thanks. So again, given the fact that this is pending legislation, I really don't want to get into that. I will say that we have policies and procedures in place when it comes to the classification of information throughout the department. So right now I don't have any announcements to make in terms of changes to those policies, but certainly if and when we do, I'll be sure to let you know.
It's not pending. Both the House and the Senate have approved it. This president hasn't signed it yet. I mean,
so that's pending legislation.
Come on. Your briefing book's all CUI too. I mean, is this thing overused from your professional experience? You've been here now a while, and you've seen the markings change left and right.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. My response is CUI. Sorry. Let me go to the back of the room here.
Carrington Clark from the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. Yesterday, Australia signed a legally binding security pact with Vanuatu. Was America involved at all with those discussions, and what's your overall view of the importance of that in security arrangements in the Pacific?
I appreciate the question. I don't have any insight into that. We can certainly take that question and come back to you. Thank you. Sir.
Thank you, General. General, does the Secretary Austin directly approach U.S. concerns about Chinese involvement in Africa, during his meeting with the African leaders, and how much that could hurt U.S. military relations with these countries? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much. So we'll certainly be sure to provide a readout of the discussions today. We do continue to communicate with our partners that engaging in certain types of activities with the PRC may have some negative ramifications on their relationships with us. So, for example, you've heard various leaders talk about the challenges associated with Huawei telecommunications basing issues. So that will be an item of continued discussion, I'm sure. But beyond that, I don't have any additional details. Okay, let me go back out to the phone here real quick. Carla Babb, BOA.
Hey, thank you so much for doing this, Pat. I have a question on Belarus. There's reports coming out of military convoys moving in the direction of the Ukrainian border. In Belarus, is the Pentagon concerned about a possible escalation of war or a re-invasion from the north?
Yeah, thanks, Carla. So we obviously continue to keep a close eye on the situation in the region, to include activities in Belarus. I don't want to get into specific intelligence, but I will say that it's our assessment right now that we do not see any type of impending cross-border activity by Belarus at this time. Let me go to Tara, and then I'm going to go back to the phone.
And if this one has to be taken, it's okay. Can you give us a breakdown of the cost of the Patriot missile defense system and how much one of the missile interceptors costs?
We can get back to you with whatever we have that's publicly available and not CUI on that.
In general, where its performance, how it would fit in with the NASAMS, in all the air defense systems that you've provided, how it would work with the others.
Okay. Yeah, we can. I mean, so broadly speaking, you know, just any type of integrated air defense system is going to look at the various capabilities based on the various threats, and the idea is that they would work together with the command and control function to be able to address those. But I understand the intent of your question, and we'll take that back and come back with whatever we can.
In terms of area of coverage, like what the area of protection Patriot gives versus
Sure.
NASAMS versus.
Absolutely. Yeah, let me come back to you on that one. Okay. I'll come right back to you, Janie. Let me go to the phone here. Laura Seligman, Politico.
Hi, Pat. Thanks for doing this. Just to go back to the Patriot question for a minute, we've heard from senior DoD officials that Patriot is one of the systems the U.S. is considering going to Ukraine. So without confirming whether any announcement is imminent, can you talk about whether the department is considering moving existing Patriot systems or new contracts, contracting for new systems with the manufacturer? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. Again, and with great respect and apologies to all of you, I don't mean to sound like I'm a broken record here, but again, I don't have anything to announce, and I'm not going to talk about or speculate on things that may or may not be under consideration. And as always, when and if there's something to announce, we'll be sure to do that. Thank you. All right, let me go back here. Yes, ma'am.
Japan is expected to announce its new national security strategy soon, and the draft of national security strategy says that Japan and U.S. will work together regarding Japan's new counter-strike capability that strikes enemy missile bases. My question is, how have U.S. coordinated with Japan so far on Japan's possession of counter-strike capability, and how will the U.S. proceed such discussions with Japan following the release of Japan's NSS?
Sure. Well, we've always been very clear that the United States broadly supports efforts of our allies and our partners to include Japan in bolstering their self-defense capabilities. But as it relates to Japan's defense strategy or any capabilities that they may, or doctrine that they may be seeking to implement, I'd refer you to the government of Japan for that. Thank you. All right, let me do one more from the phone here. Gordon Lubold, Wall Street Journal.
Thanks. My question's been asked and not answered a few times, so I think I'll yield my time. Thanks.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate it. Louis and then Janie.
two-parter. First, do you have an update on how many missiles it is believed that Russia has fired, precision-guided missiles Russia has fired into Ukraine? And we used to get that kind of information before. I just wondered if you've seen anything that could provide an update.
Yeah, I don't have any specifics to provide on numbers.
Back on November 29th, I'm going to quote you here. You said regarding discussion of Patriots, you said, right now we have no plans to provide Patriot batteries to Ukraine, but again, we'll have to continue to have those discussions. When you were talking about those discussions, were you referring internally or were you referring to discussions with Ukraine? And does your statement from November 29th still hold that right now we have no plans to provide Patriots to Ukraine?
Yeah, so again, Louis, I don't have anything to announce. And if you look at the duration of this campaign and the way that the United States has worked with our allies and partners to provide security assistance to Ukraine through mechanisms like the Defense Contact Group, there is an ongoing discussion to continuously look at Ukraine's security assistance needs. And as those needs evolve based on the situation on the ground and based on the threat, we continue to have those internal conversations, not only within the U.S. Department of Defense, but with the broader international community. And one of the things that I would say that we've been very consistent about is, as requirements have developed and as we've worked with Ukraine, trying to rapidly get those capabilities to the battlefield. You saw about a month ago, a little over a month ago, when Russia started massively bombarding Ukraine from the air. We were able to very quickly work with our allies and partners to get air defense capabilities there, to include NASAMS, and we've got 6 more on the way. So, right now, again, I don't have anything to announce, but we're going to continue to adapt. We're going to continue to stay flexible, and we're going to continue to work with Ukraine to ensure they're getting what they need. So I'll just leave it at that. Janie.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I just follow up my previous questions. China has warned South Korea not to join the U.S. missile defense system. How can you comment on this? Final questions. What would happen if South Korea did not participate in the U.S. missile defense system?
Again, Jane, I apologize. I just don't want to talk about hypotheticals. Again, Republic of Korea continues to be a close ally. We'll continue to work alongside them, shoulder to shoulder, to defend not only South Korea, but also the broader Indo-Pacific region. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.